guys are gonna prey on what you don't know, and they're gonna pack it into the contract.
Songwriters must be paid by record labels who are profiting off of their work.
Live Nation Entertainment is a leading global entertainment group that specializes in live events. And as of this week, they're also getting sued by the Department of Justice. DIYers, over the last week, there was a very interesting interview with actually one of my favorite artists, songwriters, singers in Jon Bellion. He was on the George Janko show and podcast, and we don't really get too many interviews with Jon Bellion. And for those of you that are asking who Jon Bellion is one of the most prolific songwriters, not just for himself, but for the who's who in this industry. As you can see here, Justin Bieber, Chance the Rapper, Maroon 5, Selena Gomez, and even Rihanna, which is probably one of his biggest songs that he co-wrote. And it's a Grammy-winning award song with Eminem and Rihanna called The Monster. Throughout the years, man, I've had so many videos that I've watched where he's just somebody that's full of so much inspiration. In my own pursuit as the independent artist and looking at content like the Ryan Leslie's and folks who have done behind the scenes videos, there was a period in time where I went to this dude for just maximum outputs of inspiration. I want to kind of give you an idea of the talent of him before we explain why it's so important, why he was the one on this interview exposing Live Nation. Check out a little bit of a snippet of his talent. Fast forward a little bit.
Good? You good to go? Alright. Yeah, hit it.
I always feel that I'm not living right, so I feel guilty when I go to church.
Insanely talented singer, songwriter who has been called in by some heavy hitters. Well, on this interview that he had with George Janko, he exposes the dog shit out of a company that has long had a monopoly on the live music experience, live entertainment experience in Live Nation. Who is Live Nation, though? Live Nation Entertainment is a leading global entertainment group that specializes in live events. They were formed in 2010 through the merger of Live Nation and Ticketmaster. Remember Ticketmaster? The company operates in various sectors of the live entertainment industry, including concert promotion, venue operations, ticketing services, and artist management. Live Nation produces thousands of events each year, ranging from large-scale music festivals to intimate club shows, and owns or operates numerous venues worldwide, damn near all of them. They also handle ticket sales through Ticketmaster, making them a key player in connecting fans with live experiences. And as of this week, they're also getting sued by the Department of Justice.
Somebody's gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
Why is that? I'll let Jon Bellion talk about it a little bit.
Height of everything for me, and it was right around the time I figured out how my Live Nation contract worked, and it was right around the time I figured out how my record deal actually worked.
And how did that make you feel?
Oh man, it was like panic attacks. It was like, oh my gosh, if A plus B equals C, like I'm never gonna pay this back. I'm gonna be on the road 11 months a year just trying to pay back, and we can get into that. How
but
much
also,
Live
like, that's
Nation's...
crazy because think about it. You're at the very, very top, but then there's a thing that people don't understand. It's the business part of it.
Yeah, and Live Nation is they're going 12. They're getting everybody coming 12 ways, 12 times to Tuesday. We can get into that, and that's what I'm.
Are you with Live Nation?
No, I paid myself out of the deal, and then I had to pay 25% extra on what they advanced me.
So for context, what you got to understand about Jon Bellion is that in addition to the work, the phenomenal work he does as a writer for other artists, for very popular artists, he himself is a very successful independent artist that has toured, had sold out shows. He's talking about the deal he was under with Live Nation, him not really being privy to just how unfair or unbalanced that deal was in the favor of Live Nation. What he's going to get into now is he's going to start to talk about some of the specifics of why it was unfair and how they've kind of been able to beat the system doing it this way.
But it's like when you figure that out on the road and you're thinking, man, why did we buy 300 rolls of toilet paper? Why do we have to spend this much on catering every day? No one's eating the pizza. We're throwing out pies. Wait a second. What? In my contract, it says...
Because it's not their money,
you got to spend this much on catering, and it comes out of my pocket?
Yeah.
But then I have to pay an advance back? And by the way, the advance that you have to give me is only on hard ticket sales. So the concept's called peanuts, parking, and alcohol. So when I sell out 10,000 people at Jones Beach, the person who buys a $20 hot dog, I don't see a dime of that.
Somebody gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
Did you catch that? He's going to go into more detail, but listen to this again.
Sell out 10,000 people at Jones Beach, the person who buys a $20 hot dog, I don't see a dime of that. The person who buys $40 for parking, I don't see a dime of that. And the person who buys a $20 vodka and Red Bull, I don't see a dime of that. And then you advance me $1 million and tell me I'm rich to then find out that you're making $4 million a night. And it takes me 36 shows to pay back the $1 million you advanced me.
You know, I don't know what understanding that I was under when it came to what artists on this magnitude, because I've toured before, but I was part of an opening group, and it wasn't really something where I was able to kind of negotiate my own terms. This was me getting my feet wet. But I was kind of under the assumption that these artists, especially of Jon's magnitude, were getting some kind of splits of the buying habits of the people they attracted to the venue, right? There's something that's called door splits that sometimes promoters will negotiate with the venue and say, hey, let's split the door or let's split the bar. But especially with somebody like this that's selling out venues, you would think that, you know, shows cost money, but you would think, hey, if this is the name that's on the marquee that's bringing people in, why wouldn't he get a cut of the hot dog sales, the alcohol sales? And then on top of that, he's a part of a deal in which he's relying upon hard ticket sales being a certain price point. And when he tells you right now what Live Nation had the power to do and what they did, shit is hella scandalous. Look at this.
It's a fake loan.
It's a fake loan that it's like, we're going to give you a loan so you can make our money off of your creation.
Yes. But I figure, and then it hit me. Oh my gosh, they own all the venues. It's a monopoly. So then now they just want my body in this room so they can sell food and alcohol and whatever. So then they're gonna make tons of money. And then they got me like schlepping around the United States talking about I want to be famous, being on Instagram, trying to be this, that, and the third. So when you figure that out, and at the time, this is right when I first got with my wife, I was having panic attacks. I was like, wait a second. Joe Schmo pays $20 for a hot dog, and I don't see that. And if I'm only making my advance back on hard ticket sales, that means I have to sell out every single venue in order to not go in the red. Because I'm only paying my advance back on hard ticket sales. And by the way, they reserve the right in the contract to put the tickets on sale.
Somebody gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
You know, there's nothing here. When you see my reaction like that, there's nothing here that I find surprising. But it's just the audacity, I think, sometimes of the folks that maybe they don't feel like the artist cares enough, or maybe they assume the artist is too stressed out to ever do any research like this, or they don't have anybody around them that understands the terms of a contract or just understands it the way that they understand the loopholes. That's pretty risky. That's pretty risky in that you're bending the rules so that an artist like this, even selling out every single venue, will never be able to pay you back. And by the time, I shouldn't say never, but it make it very challenging for them to pay you back, especially if you accept in advance. And by the time you do, you're so depleted because touring in itself will kick your ass, setting up, breaking down your set design and preparing, like as if the creative process in itself is not draining enough. It's like they're relying upon you either never paying it back or working yourself so hard to pay it back that you have nothing left to fight for by the time it's done. Which will explain why they're currently getting sued, but it's for other reasons in addition to this.
So when it's $100 a ticket and they do their summer blowout sale, the tickets are only $10. So instead of me paying back $90 a ticket, right before I go on tour, they drop a Jon Bellion sale and the tickets are only $10. We can get into it, but then you have to pay back the $1 million they gave you off of $10 a ticket rather than the $90 they told you they were going to sell the tickets for. Because now you're doing arenas, now you're doing bigger shows, and they're like, they got you coming 12 times a Tuesday.
When you found all this out, were you in the middle of a tour? Were you still having
I was in the middle of a breakdown. I was in the middle of like a, oh my God, and then I'm like, if that's the case, what does my record contract look like? What does my publishing contract
If you don't
look
mind me
like?
asking, where was this business mind before you signed the papers?
It's a business mind of a young Italian kid that only knows the lawyer in his neighborhood. That when I was paid $10,000 when I signed my first publishing deal, I thought I was rich forever. You know, I think that's the idea. I think there's somewhat of a, it's not going to be some like giant, this is the Matrix thing, but like there is a group of people that wait to prey on new ideas that are coming from natural places to then put a amount in front of you that is the most you've ever seen in your life, and you're not realizing what it is. It's like I'm eating ramen noodles every night. You gonna give me 10 grand to make beats?
See, and this is an argument I think that a lot of folks in hip hop have of why these powers that be, these companies that be, want to keep hip hop so young, and why they only want to channel in or bring in a certain age group that is easily impressionable, that is easily moldable, and why they want the culture to continue to age out certain age groups when it comes especially to hip hop and rap, because mainstream rap is not something that requires a lot of money to get generated. It's not a lot of money to get it going, I should say. The shows don't cost nearly as much money as it does for someone who has a band. There are certain things that they can cut corners, and there are people who will justify it like saying, hey, that's authentic. That's how it started. That's hip hop. And it's like they completely neglect the fact that there's something called professionalism, and there's an expectation that you have of certain artists. These artists don't always demand that. But when you're hearing him say this, I think it's showing you just how predatory these labels are, these companies are, not just on black youth that don't know any better, but just youth in general.
I'll take that. But, and then you're like 4 years later, you're like, oh, you're catching 86% of my royalties overseas, and yada, yada, after you have your first hit, you're like, wait a second. The math's not mathing at all. Like,
there's good news in this, right?
Absolutely.
There's a Christian song that I just recently heard, and it says, if it's not good, it's not over. And I love that line, because if it's not good, that means that God's not done with it, right?
On that note, though, I think it's a good transition. Maybe you saw this, maybe you didn't, but Live Nation is under a lot of heat right now, and rightfully so, because why would the Department of Justice be interested in suing Live Nation? This video does a really good job of summing up what this is about. Check it out.
Service fees, convenience fees, payment processing fees, facility fees, handling fees, shipping fees, ticketing fees. Just pay us because we told you fees. That is the price we pay for their control. So from the venue, right, to the promotion, to the ticketing, to the sales, to customers, they control everything. What ends up happening for all of us is we have no choice. We have no effective consumer choice.
To give it more detail, this article here on Music Business Worldwide has the headline, Live Nation hit with antitrust lawsuit by U.S. Department of Justice. It goes on to explain the U.S. Justice Department, along with 30 state and district attorney general, filed a civil antitrust lawsuit against Live Nation Entertainment and its subsidiary, Ticketmaster, on Thursday, May 23rd. The DOJ says it is suing Live Nation for the alleged monopolization and other unlawful conduct that thwarts competition in markets across the live entertainment industry. The lawsuit, which includes a request for structural relief, seeks to restore competition in the live concert industry, provide better choices at lower prices for fans, and open venue doors for working musicians and other performance artists. That's long been an argument of those who are opposing the way that Live Nation conducts business, is that the people they end up taking care of are not necessarily the independent artists and working musicians. It's the folks who have the top dollar, the folks that are associated with the major labels. And what happens is that they have more of a say in these venues of who's getting booked than the venues themselves if they want to stay in business. Or they just go in and say, hey, let's just buy your venue and then make those decisions for you. The complaint filed in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York alleges that Live Nation unlawfully exercises its monopoly power in violation of Section 2 of the Sherman Act. As a result of its alleged conduct, the DOJ says that music fans in the United States are deprived of ticketing innovation and forced to use outdated technology while paying more for tickets than fans in other countries. Additionally, the DOJ claims that the Live Nation Ticketmaster exercises its power over performers, venues, and independent promoters in a way that harm competition. Live Nation Ticketmaster also imposes barriers to competition that limit the entry and expansion of its rivals. In a statement published in response to the lawsuit, Live Nation Entertainment said the complaint, and even more so the press conference announcing it, attempt to portray Live Nation and Ticketmaster as the cause of fan frustration with the live entertainment industry. The complaint blames concert promoters and ticketing companies, neither of which control ticket prices, for high ticket prices. It ignores everything that is actually responsible for higher ticket prices, from increasing production costs to artist popularity to 24/7 online ticketing scalping that reveals the public's willingness to pay far more than primary tickets cost. It blames Live Nation and Ticketmaster for high service charges, but ignores that Ticketmaster retains only a modest portion of the fees. In fact, primary tickets is one of the least expensive digital distributions in the country. Well, that's not what Jon Bellion and that's not what the DOJ seems to understand of what's going on. The Attorney General Merrick B. Garland says that we allege that a Live Nation relies on unlawful, anti-competitive conduct to exercise its monopolistic control over the live event industry in the United States at the cost of fans, artists, smaller promoters, and venue operators. The result is that fans pay more in fees, artists have fewer opportunities to play concerts, smaller promoters get squeezed out. I've seen that firsthand. And venues have fewer real choices for ticketing services. It is time to break up Live Nation and Ticketmaster. So this is something that is pending. It is, man, who the hell knows where that goes next? I just want to make sure that we stay up to date as we get more updates. But there's too much truth in it. You know, we know that monopolies exist in most industries in some capacity in terms of who's servicing what. It's very rarely that you see the Department of Justice get involved in it. And it's very rarely that you see artists who, like I said, from the outside looking in, you would think that since they're always touring, that they're the ones benefiting off of this. But the touring imbalance that is occurring between these artists and Live Nation should be no more of a surprise than the stuff that goes on with the record labels. The only difference now, though, these artists are speaking up. In this next section of the interview, Jon Bellion goes on to talk about his particular deal and some of the issues with the archaic music industry. I'm going to connect this also to something that's going on or something recently that happened at a UK awards event, because artists left and right all over the world are speaking out, and it's being heard in a way that probably in the past we didn't have access to.
The last 5 years or so, the music business, the archaic, old, failing, everyone's getting fired music business as of right now. The old idea of the music business is all reactive. Nothing's proactive. It's like, we'll wait till you do something, and when you do it and it goes big on TikTok, these kids are signing away 50 points of their masters for the label of their A&R to tell them to TikTok more.
Can you imagine that? Because, you know, some people do have aspirations to be a household name, to be famous as hell at whatever cost, even at the cost of giving up 50% of their masters just to be told to do what you've already been doing. But this time you have somebody micromanaging every step of the way.
Somebody's gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
I start to understand why you get certain type of artists that get the spotlight, certain type of artists that get pulled to the center of all of our attention and focus.
But I play it smooth cause I know what it took to make it here. They offered me a shortcut, but I'm cool. I will take the stairs. When you choose your own route, I hope you know that hate appears. Look how they look at the standout. Well, luckily I can take the stairs. Morning when I wake up, check my phone. Why, yes, I made another sale. Then I read a comment about what I cannot do. Haha, just say you scared. I will not give in to fear, yeah. I am the truth and the dare, yeah. Let me just make you aware, the game, we no longer playing it fair. I get respect in the game, cause I really did it and never wrote checks for it. They gon' remember my name, I doubled the value and I paid the rest for it. I remember that I drive around in my Ford Taurus on Firestone. I dreamed about this life, I'm living in the present tense, now I'm finally home. Yeah. Come on, let me pop my shit.
I could have told
seen
you
a
that.
lot of artists
TikTok just got banned.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of artists go on TikTok and be like, hey guys, and they're honest about it. They're like, my record makes me make TikTok, so here's, I guess, another TikTok of me singing my song or something.
Yeah,
like, wow.
Or it's like...
Well, why would they need a record label if that's free? You could do that by yourself.
What do you say?
You could do that by yourself.
You absolutely can do that.
What's the point of
Hello.
DIY.
You can do it yourself. Yes, you can.
Why record labels push what they push? Why they do what they do? Why the radio? I worked on a Jungkook record for Jungkook, and the fastest song to 1 billion streams in the history of music streaming. And because the call-outs at radio weren't net positive, they just didn't push the song at American radio.
Whoa.
I don't know.
It's a business.
Yeah.
Someone in the country is listening to the song. But when a guy at Z100 or the program director or whatever, why they choose to not slip it into the rotation, or they're not friends with the guy that's at the label that we don't do payola, but if your artist comes and does my Jingle Jam 97, I'll think about putting the record. That's payola. That's payola. We say payola. Like 13-year-olds with no faces on Twitter, they say the word payola. They don't understand what that is. It's still happening.
What's payola?
The payola is the concept that used to happen early in the music business. That was like there's people and gangsters and mafia guys coming to the radio station saying, here's 10K.
Yeah.
You're going to play my artist. Or here's 10K and it's not going to end well for you if you don't. That's payola if you don't play my artist. And they're saying, oh, this artist is payola and this artist is payola. Is
that like an industry plant in a form? Like...
Well, it could be because you have these radio stations that are relevant because of large artists. So if a large artist comes to their Jingle Jam, the iHeart Radio special, then you're literally convincing the guy at the top of iHeart to consider your record the next time you drop one. So
I'm glad he's saying this. These are the things that we have known as artists that have maneuvered through this industry. When you start to get close up to the shiny things, when you start to get close up to the people who have been well established in this, and you realize how much of this is a relationship business, how much of this, even now, in an era where attention seems to be one of the number one economies, our currencies, in a time period where they are searching out your numbers, they're using AI to assist in that process to find who's going to be the next big thing. Even in that era, even with Jon Bellion say that he was part of a song that reached 1 billion streams quicker than, I think he said any other song that it reached? Let me see what he said.
The fastest song to 1 billion streams in the history of music streaming.
The fastest song to reach 1 billion streams in the streaming era. And all it took was for someone with a position to say, well, that's cool, but what's their relationship with radio? And that cut it off at its feet. So it's like, here you have an artist who is selling out arenas and is telling you right now, he's still getting done unfairly. He's also showing you, hey, I'm part of writing songs that are doing legendary numbers never done in streaming before. And he can still have that momentum cut by human beings that just simply don't feel like they know any better.
See, a label giving a producer 6 points out of 100 is the equivalent of them sitting on a cow and a UFC fight is happening and they go drop one steak in the middle of the ring and they tell the 6 producers who worked on the song, the 6 writers who worked on the song, go fight for it, figure it out. And everyone's like, I get the little fatty piece on the end because I made most of the song. And these guys are like, look at these idiots. We have 97 points and they're fighting for 3. And they think that they should be grateful if we give them 7 instead of 6. What a bunch of morons. That's literally what they're all thinking, laughing hysterically while we're in the basement like, my soul, and I'm just trying to express myself and all the culture and how to change culture. These guys are like, great job. Keep doing it and give us more so we can get 97% of it. Fucking insane.
That is insane.
Fucking insane. Just for somebody, I'm sorry. For someone to be a producer, you know how many hours, I'm sorry, you're sitting at that chair and your back's hunched over because you've done it for so many hours. For then you to finally get an opportunity to work with a big artist and the label tells you you're lucky to be working with them, here's 2 points. Go flying fuck yourself. Go flying fuck yourself. Not cool, bro. Not cool, bro. I've seen it. I've done it. I've participated in it, and it's crazy.
So why don't you go make a label and change the way that the game is?
Yeah, Tori Kelly.
Yeah. How long ago did you do that?
So there's another part in here that I want to get to where he's explaining a little bit more of the
just
solution.
Wrote the script
for the writers and.
Okay, so let's just.
Let me tell you something. Writers and producers, nobody. You know how expensive SAG-AFTRA is to pay for as a writer and producer for me to get dental for my family? I'm okay. I'm making good money. I've been successful, but I've had to be juggernaut Olympian successful just to have benefits that normal people who work at a dentist office get. And it's like, no, bro. There's no way, bro. None of these writers and producers, they're living on ramen noodles. Ramen noodles. And then it's like, oh, by the way, X artist who's an enormous artist is going to take 92% of the song you wrote 100% of. You're lucky to have your 8%. It will give you your first check and you'll buy your first home off of it, but just be lucky but then the artist who's eating ramen noodles will always take that deal because they don't have any money. So you're putting them in a rough position. Yeah. That's a tough thing to do.
You also said something to me when we were in the studio because I was like, okay, well, why don't you're already at a level, just move on. And this stuck with me. You said, if I don't do it, the hungry kid that is right behind me and the thousands that are lined up behind him.
There's a kid at Berkeley. There's a kid at Berkeley watching this right now. That's like, one day I'm gonna have $1 million. But until then, my mom's paying me getting sandwiches in the cafeteria. I gotta get this thing off the ground. So like a young 19-year-old, 18-year-old John, someone comes with $10,000 and is like, yo, you're rich, bro. Come and sign this thing and do this thing. They might even know they're getting screwed over, but the door might not even be able to get open unless you sign with the right person or you do the right thing, it's a whole convoluted thing. And even as I move forward in the publishing space or in the label space or whatever, I'm going to at least try to like really inform people as, hey, if you want to sign with me, we're dedicated to making great art, we're dedicated to making high product, and you need to call your lawyer and understand what you're getting into. Because trust me, around every corner, these guys are going to prey on what you don't know, and they're going to pack it into the contract. And if somebody put $1 million in front of your face and your last 3 generations have never seen more than 50 grand, you're like, yo, I'm rich forever. I'm rich forever. $1 million, I'm rich forever. Then you buy a house, and you don't really, Uncle Sam takes 50, and your manager takes 10, and your business manager takes 4, and then everybody's shocked when you're in the red, and you don't have a dime to your name, but I thought you were a millionaire. And your family thinks you're a millionaire, and you're this. Music money ain't what it used to be, as far as what people think it is, because these labels are holding on to all the money. And they've done it for a long time, and I think people are probably figuring that out. That's probably why they're...
You know, there was a quote that I saw, and I don't know who to credit for it, but I was watching a bunch of videos as I was doing research on this. Someone made the point that, you know, everybody always says there's no money to be made in music, and if you wanted to get rich is the worst get-rich scheme, and all these different things about just what money's actually available for artists out here. And he concluded by saying, well, if there's no money in music, then why is there a music industry? Have you thought about that? Like, why is there a music industry? If there's no money in music, how does a music industry exist? That's because everybody except for those who are making the music have figured out how to make money off of it. They want the artist to be convinced that the music itself only has so much value, that because of pirating years and years ago, because of streaming, this is just the way things are. And they want artists convinced of this. And it seems like the people that want you to be convinced of this are the ones who are actually pocketing the money that is in music. The money that is in who owns the royalties, who has the opportunity to license said music out there. The people that are understanding the businesses that exist around the music. But if there's no money in music, why is there a music industry?
I'm not a politician, and I'm just talking freely. So I'm not trying to like lift myself up to be the leader of nothing. This is how I feel about it. As a writer, I should be getting master points. I should not be getting publishing. I should not be getting publishing. We should get publishing, and we should have even splits on the publishing. That's fine. We should be getting master points as well. To not have that is the publishing. You make money at the radio. I don't know who's still listening to the radio. Someone is, because there's still a lot of money in advertising. When you get a hit record, as a writer, you make money on the publishing. But as a writer, you don't see the streaming money because you don't get any points. And the label has 100 of them. 100 of them. If I write Holy for Justin Bieber and I have 3 points on that song, that's a $2 million song. Out of 3 points, there's 100. Oh, shut up, you're rich. Shut up, you're rich. It's not the point. That's not the point. It's not the point. There would be a renaissance. I didn't even plan this. There would be a renaissance in music if the labels, if everybody gave the writers and the producers more points, because then we don't have to make that much bullshit. We can only make a little bullshit. There's artists that I want to work with that I might not ever even work with, because it's like I have a family to feed. I have things to do.
They're stretching these writers out to do things they don't want to do in order to pay bills that they must pay. It's funny because, man, the timing of all of this is just beautiful. This is why you keep hearing the the word Renaissance get brought up, because this is the way Renaissance happened. It doesn't happen to where one person says one thing. You have folks in many different spaces saying things. Matter of fact, here, there's 2 clips I want to draw your attention to before we close this story. At the Ivors Academy Awards that occurred a few nights ago. And this first statement comes from a singer-songwriter named Ray, who won the award for Songwriter of the Year. Here's what she said. This is based in the UK, but here's what she said as she was accepting that award.
I want to say to all of us songwriters out here, we have to come together. I'm telling you, master royalty points, period. No, this isn't a joke. This isn't a joke. This is not a joke. We are so important. And I'm not talking about me like artists. I'm talking about the voiceless, beating heart of this industry, which is songwriters. We need to come together. We need to actually put our foot down. And I'm sorry, record labels, but I'm saying it. And we all need to start saying it. Points, a fee, travel fee, cover food and travel to sessions. This is just ethical. This is just basic. We need to be seeing it mandatory, legal, that songwriters must be paid by record labels who are profiting off of their work by those labels. We need to be seeing songwriters earning money from their lyrics and their melodies. Thank you so much. Let's make it happen. Lots of love, and thank you to the Ivors, and I love you, Granddad. We did it!
Something's happening. Something's happening. Here's another clip here. You might recognize his name. Skepta is not only giving props for Ray for speaking out, but he's also letting you know that he too sees that something is happening. A change is on the way. Check out what he had to say here.
Anyone else can feel this feeling that's in the world right now. I definitely feel something's changing. Me and Matthew were speaking about, a lot of us in here will be old enough to remember the change into technology, into the iPhone, into the smartphone. And I feel like we've got to another mark now, and it's changing again. Everything's coming super iPhone and super digital and super tech. I actually went studio with Dave the other day, and I got there about 11:30 p.m. and I left at 5:30 in the morning. And me and Dave, we didn't make a single song. We didn't write a lyric. We didn't do anything. We just spoke just about the state of what's going on right now. You know, for a creative, for a songwriter, for a producer, we spoke for 6 hours just about this feeling that's happening right now. And I think it was a way of us just telling each other, you know, that things are gonna be fine. And I wanna reiterate it for everybody sitting in the room, all the creatives, all the songwriters in the room. I know we're all feeling it. We're feeling like what we do has no value anymore, that technology could just do what we do. But what I wanna say is, just to remember to be still. You know, our talent is not something that could be taken away by time. We didn't fake it to make it here. Sometimes we could sit for hours and hours to think of the first line for a record, and remember those hours are for a reason. Appreciate yourself, appreciate your own music. Take time to show love to the people who support you. There's always those people that you can call them, see how they are. Just remember to be still. Remember and believe and trust in your talent, whatever happens, whether it's technology, time, or a freak of nature, nothing will take away that talent inside you. So we are great, you are great. Keep the vision.
Dope message, dope message. Let me go ahead and conclude on this note. Do you see it, DIYers? Do you see it?
DIY.
You know, there's a lot of people who had doubts about, you know, when you're going up against these major companies, folks that have doubts about what can we actually do. You know, what are people even concerned about? Do listeners even give a damn about these things? I'll tell you this, the more that you see artists who have large, humongous fan bases in the Jon Bellions and the Rays and the Skeptas, the more that you see them speak about these things, right? Because someone like myself can speak about these things. I'm an independent artist that has a platform, and I try to use that platform the most ethical way and wisest way I know possible. But my reach is my reach right now. When you start seeing these conversations not only be had not just during moments in a podcast, but you see them being done during award ceremonies where those nights are all about celebrating the things that you've accomplished, and these folks are choosing to use that time to speak about what's happening or what's not happening for segments of the industry that have long been overlooked. Because look, this channel has been one that has highlighted a lot of the unfair things that happen to rappers on a regular basis, a lot of things that happen to the singers on a regular basis. But truth be told, there's an entire industry of people that we sometimes never get to hear from unless, as we do in the next story, unless records get leaked and people say, damn, I would have never known that you did all that on that record. Because a lot of times these artists try their best to keep it hush hush and try to keep it just within the studio session of it so that it can hold their own weight and their power. It's almost like some of these artists that are major, big ass artists, they're copying the ways of the labels that they're signed to. They become the master capitalist of the people that they're signed to. And it's unfortunate to see that, because there's so much talent that is responsible for the heartbeat of the music we listen to. They're responsible for the foundation of the songs that we sing, the catchiest melodies that we sing, the things that we can't get out of our head. They're responsible for it. And yes, they get compensated to a certain degree, but as you can see, there are still basic necessities of these songwriters that are not being met. And without the songwriters, what are those performing artists that don't write their own music? Without the music that they both create collaboratively, well, what is the music industry? Without the music industry, who are these entities like Live Nation and Ticketmaster? Who are all of these companies, and what value do they bring to our lives without the very people that are the foundation behind the product that they want you and I to believe is not worth that much? 0.003 if it's a stream, right? Or nothing if it's physical media, according to them. This is why, even if you're not able to have a platform like the folks that we mentioned in this video, and shout out Jon Bellion, because he's at a place in his career where he doesn't have to mention these things. He doesn't have to say any of these. He's going to be fine, right? It is all of our responsibility to make sure that we're taking steps to protect this thing that we love so much. You say that you love music. You say that you want to see a day where you're able to make a living off of the music. Well, the ways that the labels have laid out, the blueprint they laid out for us, is not sustainable. It never was supposed to be sustainable. Matter of fact, it was made so that their business models are sustainable and that you're replaceable. But you and I are not replaceable. Those of us that love this craft, those of us that spend so much time to this, put our heart and souls into this, we're not replaceable. And the art that we're creating is not disposable. So things must change. But in order for them to change, we must change. And as we're changing, it's interesting to see when you date back to the representatives that want to get streaming up to a penny, regardless of how you feel about that number, truth of the matter is they're talking about it. There's a lot of things going on in this country right now, but they're talking about the unfair practices happening in this godforsaken record business. Notice I don't say music business, because there is a difference. I myself, DIYers, am very encouraged to see this, and I can only imagine what's up next. But those are my thoughts, DIYers. You let me know what you think. DIYers, if you enjoyed this content, make sure that you hit the like button and maybe even consider subscribing. Come on, man. Stop being greedy. Peace.